Thank you, Simon, for giving me the floor. I have to say that was a highly interesting debate and also very relevant for Europol's work. I'm presenting you Europol's work in relation to fighting financial and economic crime, and we'll give you some input on our mission first. I hope I can handle. Yes. So for those who are not that familiar with Europol, just some brief information. Europol is the European law enforcement agency that actually last week celebrated its 25th anniversary. So we started operations in 1999, and the main mission, of course, is to support the competent authorities in the European Union, the member states, 27, and third countries where we have a cooperation agreement with in preventing and combating all forms of serious international and organized crime, including cybercrime and terrorism. Here it is quite important to mention that Europol does not, and maybe in brackets, yet have coercive powers. There have been some discussions over the time whether we should become a European FBI. For the moment, we are not, but of course we are in the hand of the policymakers. So we will see what will happen in the future. We have a supportive role in providing analysis to the member state to support their criminal investigations. And in doing that, we have a variety of possibilities that we can offer the member states. So if you move on one slide, please. So Europol has currently 1,700 staff. And within Europol, we have 3 directorates, the ICT Directorate, the Operations Directorate, and the Governance Directorate. And the Operations Directorate is dealing with operational casework. In the Operations Directorate, we have centers. One is the Operation and Analysis Center that is dealing with all the incoming information, processing it. Then we have the European Serious and Organized Crime Center, as the name indicates, with the most serious organized crime. Then the Cybercrime Center, of course, very relevant also for the discussions that we have today. Then the European Counterterrorism Center, ECTC. And last but not least, I hope, the European Economic and Financial Crime Center that was established by the Executive Director in 2020. Next slide, please. Our executive director decided to establish the Department of Financial and Economic Crime following increasing calls from the member states for more support in financial and economic crime cases. And our main goal is to provide support and assistance in fighting financial and economic crime, including asset forfeiture and forging alliances with public-private partnerships. And the threats that we are dealing with are mainly money laundering, corruption, counterfeiting, and fraud cases. The overarching goal of our department is to go for the money, for the profits of crime. So all the crime areas that we are supporting have one common denominator. This is trace, identify, freeze, and seize, and enable the confiscation of crime proceeds. So this is a very important activity that is being taken part of in all the various crime areas that we are supporting. Next slide, please. Here you see the crime areas in our department we are responsible for. So the first priority, we are dealing with money laundering activities in all its forms and shapes. This area is, of course, dealing with very sophisticated money laundering cases, having more and more global dimensions. So we are increasing our outreach also well beyond the borders of the European Union to actually attack the most serious and prolific money launderers affecting the security in the European Union. And that's quite important. We see a rise of drugs cases. Drug importation into the European Union has reached all-time peaks. We see unprecedented seizures of cocaine last year, about 300 tons in the European Union. And the profits coming with that increasing drug trafficking are, of course, very significant, affecting our societies in terms of violence related to gang violence, competing for the markets. And we see investment in criminal finances into our legal business in the European Union, undermining ultimately the European economy. And also corruption is playing a very important role. Another very important area is swindling and fraud. More than 1/3 of all the cases arriving in our department is related to fraud cases, an area that is growing quite rapidly. Crimes against the financial interest of the European Union, also significant damages in this area, mainly in VAT and carousel frauds. We are also dealing with insider cases and financial market manipulation, counterfeiting and product piracy, also a threat for the society in terms of counterfeited pharmaceutical products, for example. And last but not least, forgery of money. So we are the European central point for the counterfeiting of the euro currency. Next slide, please. So we want to address money laundering and have asset recovery as integral part of our investigations. And by doing that, of course, we try to collect the evidence by following the financial flows. And the main purpose, of course, to identify the leaders of criminal networks, those who in the end are profiting from their criminal activity. And we target so-called high-value targets. We, together with the countries where we develop cases with, we have operational task forces, and we work on identified high-value targets that are the most threatening actors affecting the security in the European Union. Next slide, please. We published last year the first threat assessment on economic and financial crime. EFECC is the abbreviation. You can find it online. And in that report, we presented the financial crime enablers, and one of it is digital acceleration of the society. And we discussed it, of course, today. This is leading to a significant increase in cyber-enabled financial and economic crimes. What we see today in our investigations is that the tracing of crypto assets is a routine activity today. In the morning, I told you that 10 years ago, we had doubts whether this would develop, but today we see it's regular policing activity, it's mainstream policing activity, and it was mentioned as well. The training, therefore, is very important to have the capacities in law enforcement, of course, in the private sector as well. And in our department, we have three very well-trained experts, and those crypto asset experts provide a train-the-trainer system. So in the meantime, we have 12 staff members that are fully qualified to support financial investigations, also when crypto assets are involved. So this is something we want to continue and also to promote throughout the European Union. Next slide, please. The crypto crime exposure, I can be very brief on that. You are all experts in the area. So you all know the main activities, of course, cybercrime related activities, money laundering, terrorism financing, sanctions evasion, tax crime and evasion. Sanctions evasion, just one brief mention here. We have been following very closely the developments in the circumvention of sanctions in the EU. We have recently a new directive on approximating the penal law in the area of evasion of EU restrictive measures. So this will be following the directive, a criminal offense in the European Union, and Europol is also providing support to the member states in these criminal investigations. Next slide, please. So our efforts in supporting crypto assets in investigation and are basically strategic and operational. Next slide, please. So we support cases of the competent authorities, and what we can do is provide analysis. We can make data inquiries for the cross-matching. So Europol is the central criminal information hub in the European Union. With all the criminal data that is provided by the member states and the third countries, we in total have now 53 countries present at Europol, having posted liaison offices, and we receive criminal information, and we are able to cross-match the cases that we receive against the data that we have, and then we provide analysis of the hits that we can identify. We have possibilities to trace crypto assets, and we are working on providing more targeted support, and also we prepare, of course, analytical reports. And what we also do is we invite countries that work together with us on cases to come to see us at Europol. We can organize operational meetings, we can provide funding for that, and sit together with the investigators, talk about strategies, and then finally we also can support on-site investigations. We can deploy staff on-site that can give access by a so-called mobile office to Europol data on-site. And in 23, our support has led to the seizure of crypto assets worth several million euros, and this is increasing. Next slide, please. Recently here, you see on the slide a case that we supported concerning a criminal network that was active in Albania. It involved complex cryptocurrency transactions, and our team was able to provide excellent support in that case, leading to 15 arrests. Next slide, please. So coming briefly to the strategic engagement that we have in this area, we work closely together with the European Commission, with the FATF, and also the institutions involved in the asset tracing and recovery, the asset recovery offices, and also the financial intelligence units. And it was mentioned by Olga and others earlier today, we have the so-called Europol Financial Intelligence Public-Private Partnership. I will provide some details in a minute. And finally, we also support with our partners, the Basel Institute, the Global Conference on Criminal Finances and Cryptocurrencies. Next slide, please. So in concluding, let me share with you some information on the EFECC, a public-private partnership that was established in 27. It's a collaborative community with the members leading working groups and work streams. Olga mentioned the cryptocurrency work stream. So those work streams focus on dedicated topics and develop the topic further, and the results are then shared within the community. So we have in the past addressed the various topics, including, of course, investment fraud. We have delivered a report on sanctions violations. and others. So the aim is to build a common intelligence picture. And today you will agree in investigating financial crime, time is of essence. And if we are not cooperating with the private sector and only rely on the traditional mutual legal assistance requests, we will not be able to stop financial flows or trace and confiscate.
Thank you, Burkhard. Do you maybe have time to take one of our questions?
Next slide,
that'll be great.
Please. In this public-private partnership, we have law enforcement agencies, financial intelligence units, financial institutions, of course, then also national public-private partnerships and observers. So about 100 participating institutions from 24 countries. Next slide, please.
Well, maybe I'll take the last one.
The global conference is the yearly highlight of our strategic activities, where we can meet
the organization has
the experts in discussing this topic.
Interesting statement. Of course, I have a different opinion
of the global
what we see today is that
the recommendations
criminal networks
are not stopping at national borders. When we talk about money laundering, there is no money laundering case that has not a brief presentation cross-border element to it. At least I'm not aware of those kind of cases money laundering and that are only relevant for one country to be investigated. And organized crime does not stop at national borders either. And today, in a world that is having that kind of digital acceleration as we discuss here, and in a world where organized crime is an increasing threat to our societies, a single country is no longer in a position to investigate crimes that are being organized on a global scale. We see organized crime attacking European Union citizens, and if we are not able to pool the criminal intelligence that we have available within the European Union and from our partners in third countries, that then a single country would not be able to investigate a crime successfully. And that is the added value of Europol, this criminal information hub. We can link information of organized and international crime and provide the analysis, and we are closing the gaps if you want.
Takeaways, and I believe strongly in the word brevity. My first takeaway is that from the discussions today, it's safe to say that investing in preventing and combating the misuse of the crypto ecosystem for financial crime is vital to safeguard both national and international security. My second takeaway is that we need to demystify crypto. 20 years ago, when I still had hair, financial investigation wasn't cool. We move forward, and now everyone's doing it. It's pretty mainstream. I think now we find ourselves in a similar situation with crypto. It's not a mainstream function of most of our colleagues in law enforcement. It's still seen as something that's very scientific and needs specialist skills. I think several of our speakers have actually said it's no different from how we normally investigate things. It's just applying a different prerogative. And I think that's a really important thing we need to take on board. And I think, in fact, Aidan said if you can recover vehicles, you can recover crypto. And if there's one thing to take away for me, that's it. We have seen examples of how law enforcement agencies are working collaboratively with crypto asset service providers, blockchain analysis firms, and specialist asset recovery and management agencies to detect, trace, seize, and recover illicit crypto assets. Quite simply, as law enforcement, we cannot do this alone. Public-private partnerships and public-public partnerships are pivotal to what we do, and not just in the sphere of crypto, but across the spectrum. We look at what the banking sector is called FISPs, Financial Intelligence Service Partnerships, or GIMLET. There's various different names for it, but what we are seeing very clearly is collaborative partnerships have far more traction than trying to do it alone. And I think that's a really important message to take away. I want to say that we've seen how policymakers and lawmakers are strengthening regulations and making the crypto ecosystems subject to the same controls and supervision as the more traditional financial institutions in some places. I think we're quite top heavy with Europe here and with Western part of the globe. Certainly in our part of Africa, we don't always see the same degree of regulation and legislation. Not long ago, I was with a governor of a central bank who said, we don't have any problems with crypto because we haven't regulated it. And unfortunately, that's the perception that we often come across. In fact, I often give a presentation to new investigators and I put up a Bitcoin wallet address. I say, you've just found this piece of paper in a search. What is it? I would say the amount of times I've been able to get a successful answer is probably, and I'm not overestimating this, 1 in 100. So we have a long way to go to educate our investigators, our prosecutors, to understand what it is they need to be looking for. So they're really my key takeaways. The only other things I want to say is audaciously, we at Basel are currently advertising for a cryptocurrency investigation specialist, and you haven't applied and you would like to, please do so as soon as possible because the closing date is soon looming, and then you will be the one standing here next year instead of me. And then, of course, we're always looking for next year's conference. If any country or any entity would be really keen to host it, then we'd be keen to have a discussion about what that might look like. Now, I can hear in a distance the opening of beer bottles and the pulling out of corks from wine bottles. And to me, that's a signal to shut up. So once again, I'd like to thank all of you, and in particular, Monica, who's been the real orchestrator of today and making it all happen. So could we please give her and all of us a round of applause? Thank you and safe journeys home. So for that beer and wine, we're moving to the Ark Hotel from 5:30. Ark Hotel, 5:30.